Hey everybody, this is Talkative Carl back again for another uh technically a discussion video, but this is a video dedicated to the films that I enjoyed this year of 2021. I'll think I'm not considering. I definitely want to do this at the end of every year just to go over all the films. And I thought about doing one for like video games, but it wasn't that much this year for me that I got that warrants a video on its own. But next year, definitely, I would want to make a video about all of my favorite games that I played for 2022. But yeah, uh, this is relatively short-ish. I'll go over the stuff that I've watched, some of which already done spoiler reviews on the channel. So if you haven't already, please just like recently a whole bunch of people have been subscribing. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/talkativecarl. Follow me all on the links in the description, such as Patreon, Twitter, and Twitch channel, where I stream almost every day playing video games. So anyway, and of course, please leave a comment below. Let me know what movies did you enjoy this year of 2021. Okay, right off the bat, we'll start with Coming to America. Now, it didn't come out in theatrically because it was still early in the pandemic. He wasn't getting vaccines at that time just yet. It's probably at least a month, or at least right in the midst of getting the elderly and first line workers vaccinated before anybody else. So theaters wasn't open at this time, which is like a stark contrast to now. After SpiderMan No Way Home blew up, everybody's in the freaking theater. So it's like a stark contrast from what happened earlier this year to now. Hopefully by 2022, it gets a little bit better. So no janky crap with rando people blowing up over some ignorant crap. But anyway, yeah. Some of these movies I've seen like at least once, others maybe like a couple of times. But this one, I haven't really gone back into. Because I don't think I didn't make a spoiler review for this movie. This is like way before I decided to do any kind of movie reviews. But Coming to America, it was all right. I enjoyed it for what it was, but it's like, I think because the original had an R rating and was able to get away with certain things that this one was rated PG-13, seemed like, just like with Venom 2, which I'll get to later on in the video, it seems like they shot it in a way where we probably would have, it's like they kind of we missed out on an unedited or unrated cut of this, because I imagine there should be like a DVD or Blu-ray version of the uncut Coming to America sequel that we're missing out on, because this seems like a very reserved, not allowing it to spread its wings. You know what I mean? So it feels neutered in a way. And if it was allowed an R rating, I imagine it would have gone a whole lot better. And I think they borrowed a lot of influence from Black Panther with all the garb, and even they making a reference to it. I mean, it's funny. It's okay. It was just not as good. I mean, it's definitely better than most sequels that came out, which like Matrix 4 we'll get to later on in the video as well. But I like to use the example like Dumb and Dumber 2 as like the prime example of trying to revitalize something after so many decades have passed, where the original actors, if they are still alive, a little bit older, sometimes the comedy that we would have gotten away with back in the day, you can't play as much now. So it feels neutered. So it poses a problem. But it's not a problem enough for me to warrant not enjoying this. But I gotta say, the only people I didn't really care so much about the daughters like that, and like the wayward son. I didn't really care for him. The out of nowhere rapping. I won't say out of nowhere, but the rapping between him and the other. I forgot her doggone name. It's like the female rapper that's part of the opposing tribe that lives in Zamunda. Of course, James Earl Jones is great. Eddie Murphy's great. Arsenio Hall is great. John Stamos, for what little we see him in, he's great. But that's part of the bulk of the enjoyment I got from this. I don't think they needed Tracy Morgan in this at all, because I don't know, Tracy Morgan's comedies kind of fall flat for me. But like I said, Eddie Murphy, still bringing the funny. Like Arsenio Hall, James Earl Jones is great. John Stamos is great, but and of course Wesley Snipes, he has his funny moments too. So it's aside from them, everybody else kind of falls flat for me. But these other actors that I mentioned that I did enjoy made me still enjoy this movie to a certain level. But I probably would put it on the low tier so far as my favorites this year. Cruella. Now, I watched this twice, and I still enjoyed the hell out of it. This is how you make... It's not even your traditional live-action version of a Disney animated property. This one is actually a legit original story because it's a prequel to the 101 Dalmatians story. Now, some people have, certain issues, especially towards the end. I think they kind of trip up on the final moments up to the post-credit scenes where it's kind of throws people off. I enjoyed the hell out of this movie. Emma Stone's phenomenal as Cruella, even to the point where I loved it so much. I even around Halloween, as you saw from my videos around October, I had the whole Cruella look because I love this character. It's she instantly made me instantly love Cruella. More so than I ever thought I did. Always enjoyed the 101 Dalmatians animated film back in the day. I think Aladdin's always the tippy top of my favorite. Hercules, and 101 Dalmatians and Lion King. So far as some of my biggest favorites, Disney Renaissance films. But this is if Cruella got Joker-fied. This is Joker Cruella. The Joker wears Prada kind of situation. The outfits are amazing. The punk rock aesthetic is amazing. And the fact that I still talk about it, where the fact Emma Stone just ate a piece of banana peel, that fell from a garbage bag that's on her cheek, and she ate that sucker without hesitation. It was just God, the balls on this woman. But yeah, this movie is fun. It was fun, and I think the way it worked because they didn't, the director was smart. I'm pretty sure that he knew he didn't want this to be another run-of-the-mill the Lion King, which is just a beat by beat story, because you can just go on Disney Plus, go turn on the animated Lion King movie, which is far superior than the live action version, and just give it to your kids to watch, and you can watch it with them, because that is the standard. That is the best. There's nobody would be asking to this day, after the live action Lion King came out, anybody who's feeling up to watching the Lion King, your first go-to will be the animated version, because they're all telling the same story, but this one just does it better. Cruella, you only have two options. If you want to see the live action version, the prequel version, there's only one of those, which is the live action. If you want to see the original, then you go to the animated version. So there's two distinct things telling two different stories. I appreciate that. Boy, do I appreciate that. And that makes me love this movie even more, because at least the director and writers took the time making a original story and, you know, put some heart into it. And everybody on set looks like they was having a ball, especially Emma Stone. And she's just playing that crazy. And it's like, man, it was fun. And Kanto, I just recently did like a spoiler review for this movie. Of course, you know, it did so in the box office because at first it was released in theaters around the Thanksgiving weekend. A fair amount of people went to go see it. By the time I eventually got around to see it, it was already on Disney Plus. So I watched it there and did a spoiler review on it. I already went into full detail about my thoughts about it through that video, so you can just check it out on the channel. It only just recently posted. But I did thoroughly enjoy this movie. The songs here are phenomenal. The characters are just fantastic. Like I said, like I love this movie. I want more adventures with this family. This Colombian family that's so cool, so charming, especially Maribel. She is so charming. I love her, and I want more adventures with this family. I want like at least 3 seasons, like book 3 seasons of this kind of show with just this family members going on these little misadventures and what have you, just in like the surrounding area. I want similar to that. I want Moana to have something like that as well, because I love Moana. That movie has great music, and I just want more like, you know, adventures with. You don't have to make a complete sequel to a movie. You can just make a, you know, some kind of like, you know, series, and it works so well. It's just like the way Lilo and Stitch works so well, because you know it's like a fun environment that you want to just live in for a minute. You know what I mean? But yeah, I enjoy Encanto. Encanto is definitely a worth watch. You definitely watch with your kids, and you definitely might learn something from the Colombian culture. But this is just impressive, and it's not getting its just due like it should be, because like, you know, people just didn't want to rush out to go see it in the theaters. If you have Disney Plus, definitely give this a watch. Show your support to this, because it's just like a fun time. Marvel's Eternals. Now, I definitely enjoyed this. It's like it's weird because initially, like at least days before it was its theatrical release, people been at least, I don't know what kind of critics, what kind of movie they was watching, but they, you know, was talking about how it's just as bad as Thor: The Dark World, and that's a lot of people's mindsets going in. But once everybody went to see it, it was pretty good. I don't know what version of the movie did they watch that you know, like they couldn't make any changes to the movie to make it better before everybody else in the world got a chance to see it, because it doesn't seem like it to me. But yeah, I mean, you know, Chloe Zhao did a great job balancing out all these actors, half of which are just superior A-list celebrities, like Angelina Jolie and Salma Hayek. You know, as far as like superior A-list celebrities, and man, they knew the kind of material they were in, because I was worried, especially from Angelina Jolie, that I was worried she might go the Tom Cruise route and try to make it all about her and, you know, get her ego in the way. But no, she understands the material. She understands her role in this ensemble, and like everybody's involved is just, you know, doing like a ace job. Despite, you know, Camille Nanjiani, who got ripped for this movie and doesn't do nothing with this. I mean, he should have been Gilgamesh. At least he can, like, you know, start, you know, using his abs to full expectation. All he did was dodge and use spirit guns from, like he's from Yu Yu Hakusho, And it's like, you got abs for nothing, and he's not doing nothing with them. I expected something. He's just dodging and then shooting finger guns. But uh, but he was enjoyable because he's a comedian, so like he's doing a great job with that. Along with his cameraman, and he was great. But I enjoyed Makari the most. I love Makari. Like, her and Echo really make me want to learn at least the fundamentals of sign language, because God, I find them like so charming. The fact that they can't speak, but like, kudos to the co-stars who took the time to learn the basic fundamentals, like the Jeremy Renner and Haley Steinfeld, and the co-stars of Eternals took the time to learn some basic fundamental sign language so they can speak with their deaf co-stars, at least on a fundamental level, so that way, it's just to show like respect, and like and it's charming. I enjoy that. That made this much more enjoyable. The fact that everybody involved brought their A game. It was totally respectful. It was like, just like a fun ride all around, on set and off set. And, this, I've been telling people, it's probably the most diverse movie I ever seen. Not even just in like terms of superhero films, but just in movies in general, that off the top of my head, this is personally, I think, the most diverse film I ever seen in my life. And it's pretty damn good. I don't know what the critics talking about. I mean, it's not Endgame level, of course not, but I put it somewhere around like maybe Guardians 1, as far as like even though some people might say like everybody playing like the same kind of tone of voice, aside from Kumail Nanjiani, there's no distinct voice or behavior that's kind of set them apart from one another, because the little kid is pretty much talking similar to Icarus, and it's like there's no distinct kind of vocal tones, which I get. I get that point. Looking back, they make a good point, but it really does not take the enjoyment out from me. You can clearly see they was trying to do Game of Thrones type of thing here with the Eternals, which I don't think is a bad idea, honestly, given like their origins and what have you, and they're very regal in a way. So yeah, I enjoyed the Eternals. Godzilla versus Kong. I mean, this is far better than the well, I think King Kong Kong Skull Island was like, I think just as good as this. It's not, maybe slightly better, but I think Godzilla versus Kong was phenomenal. I watched it on HBO Max when it came out, because theaters was still closed at the time. It was early this year once again. And honestly, just like with the previous movies before, I mean, they do it slightly better here, but the human element, well, in the past they were extremely boring, but I think, the director and the writers understood the complaints, and they tried to give these human people some agency and warrant their position in the film, rather than just making just boring stand-ins until we get to the actual meat and potatoes of the fight between these kaijus. But I just call her 11. I can't really Millie Bobby Brown. I keep calling her 11. I don't watch Stranger Things, honestly, but I know she's in it, and like she's a great actress, from the stuff, because I didn't see Stranger Things, but the only other thing I've seen her in besides this is that Netflix movie of I think that came out last year, the Sherlock Holmes thing, but it's not about Sherlock Holmes, it's about his niece. But she was good in that, but you know I could not care less what's going on with the. I mean, like aside, the kids elements was probably especially heinous. I do not care. Aside from that little kid who could communicate with Kong fluently, besides from that, the other kids, I do not care. They could have just been left out entirely. But, those as far as like scientists and trying to get to the center of Earth, find the origin of Kong and all these other kaijus and what have you, that was pretty cool. But primarily was there for the fight between King Kong and Godzilla, which one won, the other one, then the last fight ended in a tie in a sense. But historically, like I'm not a huge kind of like kaiju monster movie fanatic, but what I do remember from the stuff that I remember seeing as a kid, watching with my grandfather, Kong was the only, besides like Ghidorah, Kong was the only one who managed to defeat Godzilla. Godzilla pretty much had majority of the wins of every kind of fight he's ever been in. Nobody ever beaten Godzilla except 2, or 3. I think Mothra might have won once. I don't quote me on that. I'm only 50% sure Mothra beat Kong beat Godzilla once. So a possible Mothra. Definitely Kong beat Godzilla a couple of times, and King Ghidorah definitely beat Godzilla a couple of times. So but there's just few losses out of the 100 or so wins, and it's similar to like Kong. He lost to Godzilla at least a couple of times himself, but for the most part he always won his fights. So that's why this was so major, because these guys have Godzilla definitely has slightly more wins than Kong because he got more movies, than Kong. But these two are like the pinnacles or pillars of the kaiju monster films, and these two going at was like a big deal. So this was like a fun movie to watch. I haven't revisited, since earlier this year, but honestly, just seeing Kong wielding like an electrified or atomic powered axe against Godzilla fighting in Hong Kong is awesome looking. All right, James Bond, No Time to Die. It was definitely a nice wrap up from the Daniel Craig chapters. Yeah, it was a nice little button up. I'm not sure how anybody else felt. I think it was like a fair assessment that people are enjoying this. It was a nice cinematography, great musical score. Daniel Craig, knowing that it's his last James Bond film, because he wanted to put it to rest. Finally, he doesn't want to do any more of these, but he want to make sure he brought us Endgame, so everybody's walking away satisfied. And despite I think Quantum of Solace, personally, I think that's like automatically the worst one out of all his James Bond films. But everything else I primarily enjoyed. Some people didn't care for Skyfall like that, but like I said, like by and large, was it Skyfall? Not the one with Javier Bardem. So, there's something else I'm forgetting that people are kind of like 50-50 split on, because I'm pretty sure it was Skyfall that had Javier Bardem as like the villain. Great villain, is right there with Lashif as far as my favorite Daniel Craig Bond villains. But the villain here, played by Zayn Malik. Was it Zayn Malik? He was alright. He plays like a stoic bad guy, but it's like the others had like a thing about them that kind of make them fun to watch. And he was just like, not like he was just there. He just seems like he's trying to do his own thing, and I respect that. But it's kind of like, do some levity, or at least has a at least like I said, Javier Bardem is like everybody's favorite because he brought some humor and fun to the role, even though he's doing menacing. Oh yeah, it was the other villain that was 50-50 split on for people was one with crap, what is his doggone name? He's British. I know that for sure. Some horrible bosses too. Christoph Waltz. Jesus, thank you, Google. Christoph Waltz is the one. Is the one that he was first introduced, and the people were 50-50 split on. Even though I loved his role in that, he played a phenomenal villain. Even he had some fun in his role, and just the smarm and the playfulness. He's like, I'm always 3 steps ahead of you, James, and I'm gonna have fun while I'm just watching you just squirm around trying to figure things out. It's just bonkers, but No Time to Die. It's still fun. Nice, like I said, nice little bookend. I love Daniel Craig. I was hesitant on him in Casino Royale when I first saw it because I grew up with Pierce Brosnan in the 90s as my Bond, and that will probably never change. He's my personal favorite Bond, but Daniel Craig has shot up to number 2 as my favorite version of James Bond. Sean Connery be number 3. I know Timothy Lee Dalton and the others were fine as well, but it's primarily when I watch James Bond films, those 3 are the ones that I typically go to as far as memorable and just fun to watch, and it doesn't go too far off the rails either direction. But yeah, pretty good, and bravo. A nice little send off to Daniel Craig's Bond. All right, Justice League Snyder Cut. Man, people have been clamoring for that, but of course, HBO Max found it fortuitous just to promote HBO Max a little bit harder and get more subscribers, so they make sure they got this out. And of course, it was a lot of trial and tribulations with what's going on personally for Zack Snyder at the time, Joss Whedon of it all, and his little issues that kind of really kind of, put a sour taste in people's mouth for the theatrical version of Justice League. And not only that, just certain Whedonisms of it all, the kind of you can tell, especially after watching Snyder Cut. Okay, yeah, we can tell which bad version was on Joss Whedon. But this was, of course we ain't gonna get anything more from the Snyderverse of it all. They completely going to be rebooting the whole entire universe, especially when it comes to Flashpoint when that comes out next year. But this honestly is a dope movie. I was skeptical as hell for it. All these rewrites and everything like that. I'm thinking or at least certain things he was doing before this movie came out. I'm thinking to myself, man, he was gonna change up the entire movie and say, oh, this was in my cut of this originally. You're just trying to make it better. So that's what my mindset was when I first heard about this a year or so ago, where it's he could easily just throw something in there, make it proper and better, and say oh, that wasn't my original thing. No, it wasn't. You threw that in there just to make it a little better, so that way you can just, make yourself look good by the fans. But no, I was wrong on that one. This has all been legit his original vision, and pretty damn good. And of course, we understand where the Cyborg actor was coming from, as far as their enjoyment being around Zack Snyder and his directing style and working with him. And it's from a lot of people who worked with him during Buffy and Angel, how like Joss Whedon was terrible on set. You know, now we understand coming from like Gal Gadot and the cyber actor, and like I'm pretty sure Jason Momoa, but I can't be 100% sure he said anything about it. But it's like, yeah, this, you know, Joss Whedon is just like a jackass of a human being. Probably coming from like a family of writers, so you feel like he just got technically into privilege in a way, so you feel like he just pretty much like can just not saying like do whatever he wants, but it's kind of like that privileged mindset that I can just the way he treats like women, he feels like I can not like sexually mistreat them, but just verbally and like verbally abusive at most. But he's just like a complete ass. And so I'm glad the actors get to work with Zack Snyder to properly do a Justice League movie, even though it was like cut up in different chapters, and it was like 3 to almost 4 hours long. It was pretty good, very good. I enjoyed it. Aside from Ben Affleck, everybody else is getting like well, I don't know about like the cyber actor. I think he's like just done with it in general. So I think Cyborg and Batman will definitely need to be replaced, which more than likely will be Robert Pattinson taking up the role for Batman, because he's the Batman currently for the next foreseeable years for any DC related thing. Even though he's doing his own film that's coming out in I believe it was March. The Batman's coming out in March, right? Matt Reeves Batman. I'm pretty sure March, not January, because yeah, it's coming out in March. That's what I thought. So it's like a March release. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, Justice League Snyder Cut, fantastic. Nice little. It's just like what I'm going to mention in my when I bring up Matrix 4 on the list. It seems like a kind of movie that's kind of course correct a terrible thing. Which, by the way, I kind of wish they do something like that similar. I mean, even though it's not like, some people don't want any more of these, release the whatever cut of anything just because like a movie comes out and it's like terrible doesn't mean like you have to force like a director to go back and distribute the longer version of it just to have the movie make sense. But I kind of want that for Rise of Skywalker. That is not like that wasn't a proper send off to the sequel trilogy, because for all the faults from Last Jedi, it wasn't horrible, but they can easily, because I feel like they spent most of the time with Rise of Skywalker trying to fix any issues that people had with Last Jedi, instead of, because the director had to, the original director J.J. Abrams had to get off from Force Awakens and replace, the director, forgot his name, to take on Last Jedi. He kind of did like a shit job. I won't say shit job, but it's like the issue was, it wasn't like they had terrible directors. The issue was, J.J. Abrams, not unlike with Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, J.J. Abrams did not have any kind of blueprint if he had to step aside to handle some other work that he had on the pipeline that, forced him off the Star Wars project. The director they brought in should have been given like the blueprint of what his long story stretching out through 3 films was going to be, so he can still tell the second one, Last Jedi, in his own style, but still maintain the story beat, and up until at least when JJ comes back for the third and final one, he can still carry on and like nothing, there's no missteps, and you can focus on the movie rather than trying to fix the last director's thing. But hopefully we don't deal with that too much from films. But Justice League Snyder Cut is like, I eat my own words. It's better, way better, more enjoyable. Just like everybody involved in the film said, it is pretty dope. So yeah, definitely worth a watch. Definitely need to give yourself like a day if you're not doing anything. Spend a day and watching this movie. It's the proper Justice League movie that we should have gotten originally, and it could have done wonders for the DC EU. But as it stands, like, they're on a better track now. But who knows what would have happened if Zack Snyder would have originally gotten this cut, from the jump, and where the world's the DC universe stand as it's currently in the current day. Now, Nexus 4. Once again, I just did like a full spoiler review for that the other day, which is up on the channel. Once again, youtube.com/talkativecarl, and follow me in the other channels, links in the description below of the video. Yeah. And there's been people, at least box office wise, I'm hearing it's like an average rating. It's like, there's like a few minor people who say it's like a shit show of a film. I don't agree. Now, honestly, I would like to think this would have been like a proper sequel to the original Nexus movie. But it seems like, I don't know. When a director is forced to make a sequel because the original movie done so well, and they gotta churn out something, they kind of feel like they kind of half-assed in the story or whatever. That's what it feels like with Mixtures 2 and 3 in a way, where it's like this one seems like it was course correcting what went wrong with 2 and 3. Like the constant, even though they started wearing black, it's not like obsessively leather clad black. It's like casual wear, but still in like the kind of traditional colors. But there's still other vibrant colors. It's not muted green like the previous Matrix films were. Like, it's like diluted in green everywhere you look. I don't care for this updated Morpheus, chosen outerwear, where it seems like he sucked in all the colors into his outfit. It's very flamboyant Morpheus. Not sure, like, that didn't. It's like this come from like a circus party or something like that. It's like colors all out the yin yang. And then you got like Bugs, who got like the Sonic the Hedgehog hairstyles. Like, wow, you just like the woman dressed all in white in the first Matrix movie. It's like, why do you want to stand out as much as possible? Just wear some middle of the road clothes that has some average color scheme to it. It's like you're going too far on to the other side of it now, at least for most of you guys. But the writing has definitely, in my opinion, improved, because in the previous films, once again, the pretentious writing where it seems to drag on for like 10 to 15 minutes. And it's like, in this one, if there's, speeches, they cut to the chase and they simplified it. Or simplified it. The villain in this, I'm not going to spoil it here. You can check out my full spoiler review in my channel that I posted about Matrix 4, where I go over the villain. But I enjoy the villain in this. I like a certain twist and callbacks to the film. It's pretty good. I enjoy the Matrix Resurrections. Definitely worth look-see. Give it a chance if you haven't seen it. Keep it open mind. It was a nice, like I said, it would have been a proper Matrix 2 than what we had. It's a more proper follow-up to the original movie. And there's a lot of, like I said, callbacks to, more so to the original than it was to 2 and 3. Even though 2 and 3 kind of sprinkled here and there, but they really they chose not to harp on those too much. They want to keep those movies at arm's length, because everybody and their mama know Matrix 2 and 3 are pretty bad. Well, I think I like a few scenes out of Nexus 2, especially like the fight scene in the park with Neo versus all those Agent Smiths. Still one of my favorite fight scenes in cinema. Mortal Kombat. This is like a nice updated rebooted movie, which I'm pretty sure is still getting like a sequel. I think because people involved in this film honor and respect the lore of the Mortal Kombat franchise. They do not want another Annihilation fiasco. And considering people involved here probably grew up playing the game just like me and the people in my generation and younger, they want to make sure that, no, we're going to have a rated R fucking Mortal Kombat movie. None of that PG-13 bullshit that your mama don't want you to watch, like it was back in the day. None of that crap. Now we're going to make ourselves like a real fucking Mortal Kombat movie. Everybody involved was, great. Kano was phenomenal. I still remember it, like he's just funny as hell. But that whole Cole Young's the only con I pretty much had. Well, as a second con, but it's more so like a nitpick. But the biggest con I have was Cole Young. I don't think he was needed, honestly. I know you want like somebody in like the audience eyes into this world thing, but you can have chose any original Mortal Kombat roster character to do that with, honestly, because Cole Young sucked with that stupid pseudo Black Panther body armor he mystically formed and stuff like that. That was dumb. The whole family aesthetic, boring as hell. But then the nitpick is the guy who plays Jax. That damn mustache makes him look like fucking Steve Harvey. That was too thick of. If he's gonna have like a mustache, either make it a full goatee or trim that sucker down. Cause he looked too much with his bald head. He makes himself look too much like Steve Harvey if he was in his late 20s. It didn't sit right to me. It was distracting as hell. That's why I say it's a nitpick. Sub-Zero in this, scary as hell. Great job with the director and writers and the cinematographers that make Sub-Zero, the original Sub-Zero, like a fucking horror movie monster. The way he just like sneaks up on people and freezing them to death, and he just it looks like a slasher movies half the time with him. And it was scary as hell. But like the fight between him and Scorpion, both times, amazing, fun to watch. And some people were kind of taken aback because they didn't actually participate in an actual tournament, but they probably going to, given the fact that they were on a limited budget and they were trying to keep the story tight. I respect that, and this is like a prequel to the actual tournament thing. Once they have a bigger budget, then they can go full tilt with the tournament thing. But the Sang Shan trying to take out these guys before the tournament starts with little fighters, or at least taking out the best fighters first. So if there's still gonna be a tournament, there's gonna be easy pickings because there's not gonna be any legit good fighters for Earth Realm. So I don't mind that. Like I said, they're keeping the story pretty tight. They're limited budget, so I appreciate the fact that they managed to do so much with little that they have. And obviously, still gonna get a sequel. They're gonna bring in Johnny Cage, and they're gonna actually, will probably earn just enough to warrant. They earned just enough to warrant a sequel, obviously. But the budget, I imagine, is going to be a little bit bigger to allow a full-blown tournament with other fighters. And you'll probably see more people. And despite some of the deaths in here, it's Mortal Kombat we're talking about. If you ever played a Mortal Kombat game, death doesn't mean death half the time with these people. You can bring them back in at least a few different ways if you know the Mortal Kombat lore. I mean, I'm not like a full-blown historian of Mortal Kombat, but I know my fair share to know, there's ways for them to bring dead characters back to life. So dead doesn't always mean dead in the canon. But I love the Mortal Kombat reboot, and I cannot wait for the sequel. And please let me know the movies that you're seeing so far that I'm bringing up. Tell me what you think of them yourselves. Did you enjoy them? Did you not enjoy them? Or are you split? You know? Need I say more? Spider-Man No Way Home is literally my favorite movie of all time. It has jumped right to the best movie, personally, for me, that I ever watched in my lifetime. And not even just in terms of superhero films, just movies in general. It is my favorite movie of all time. The only con I had about it, honestly, really, is the whole Venom thing. They could have done something with Venom, but they, brought him in for just like a post-credit scene, and then obviously it looked like they sent him back into the Sony universe, and it's like, oh my God, you kept J.K. Simmons, J. Jonah Jameson. You might as well just I don't think anybody would really blink an eye if you kept Tom Hardy in the universe for him to fight Spider-Man, Tom Holland's Spider-Man. These two actors really wanted to be in a movie together and like fight and everything like that. They talked about it, and it's like, what half-ass thing you're going to be coming up with is going to probably not going to be as good as keeping him into the same MCU universe. But beyond that, I love this freaking film. Like, everybody involved is phenomenal. Green Goblin and Tom Holland's Spider-Man fight in the apartment is still like one of the best fights. Another best fight in a movie that I've seen. And it just felt like you feel those hits. They're not like, CGI stunt work bullshit. This is like, felt like fucking hits. You feel like the weight of the punches, and like it's like, Darth Vader hallway fight scene in Rogue One, where you feel like this is like an actual legit terror coming down the hallway, slicing you and just ripping you to shreds. This is what Green Goblin was like right now. It's just like he was just wrecking shop with Spider-Man, throwing him through walls and all this other stuff. But Willem Dafoe, fantastic. The callbacks, fantastic. Just spoiler alert, the Spider-Man, all the previous Spider-Man actors coming back, fantastic. They're playing off each other, great. And just a tangent here, because I was planning on doing like a discussion video about this, but I might as well just mention it here, because it's only one little thing. A couple of days ago, Kim Kardashian got dragged in the media because she posted on her IG about with certain shots that she saw from Spider-Man No Way Home after her second viewing a couple of days ago of this film. Now, I'm not a Kardashian fan. I don't like the Kardashians or the Jenner family. I do not really care for them, honestly. I do not get the appeal for these people. But this is the one instance where, like, I agree, at least on Kim's side of things, where the few people who were dragging her are the minute people who did not want to go out in the theaters for fear of the whole COVID or Omicron thing, and chose to wait until it comes out on streaming platforms. Now, that is your prerogative. Nobody's, question that decision. I think a lot of people would understand that decision. But this is one of those kind of rare moments where, when this hyped up movie of all time, at least as far as 2021 and late 2020s, the most hyped movie that we've seen in a mighty long time, has been like, they announced the marketing and everything like that, the early pre-sale tickets things. You clearly understand this movie was about to come out. You clearly understand how much of a big deal it was. Twitter has been like unusually respectful so far as like spoilers for a week, maybe almost 2 weeks, where nobody was spoiling shit for people. Like, the only other time I remember nobody's trying to spoil anything was Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. Very rare you get that kind of understanding from trolls on the internet, where it's like people have been like, quiet, give everybody a chance to go watch it at least once. And it's coming up almost 3 weeks now where Kim gotten a chance to see it secondly. And I'm thinking, like, I don't have no sympathy for you. Like, I get it. You wanted to wait till the streaming platforms, and you just having to scroll on Kim Kardashian's feed, and you did not expect that to show up and having certain things ruined for you. But we expect us to keep a tight lip on it for over a month or two to the eventual time that you are going to see it on streaming, on the eventual day when it actually goes to streaming. People want to talk about it at this point. And I think we was more than generous. I think Twitter in general is more than generous of giving you that cushion time to go see it. You have the option of going to see it in theaters just like everybody else. To like, just to see it. Nobody's forcing you to do either thing. But keep in mind, just like Scarecrow was saying from The Dark Knight, buyer beware. People are eventually going to start talking about this. Whether or not you cut the feed from any Spider-Man related content and whatever, if you go on the internet in general, you're going to have to go get off the grid if you don't want to avoid spoilers, because eventually people going to want to talk about this. People going to start posting pictures. I literally, had like pictures taken from the theater. I don't really condone that. I've never done that before, but it's kind of like the kind of thing that like I want to capture this moment because, like I was there kind of situation in theater, not to do it on like the Blu-ray once I eventually get the hard copy of this on Blu-ray. I want to make sure that's why I went to go see it a second time, mostly because I want to at least capture these specific moments, at least a few specific moments, not like the whole freaking movie, but just like a few key moments that I probably will never see unless I see some kind of poster in C2E2 next year or something of this. But guys, people want to start talking about it. You're just gonna have to like understand that. As much as we understand your plight and why you chose not to go to a theater, you should understand that we're gonna eventually start talking about this. Unless you're gonna cut off social media altogether or not gonna be around people altogether, there's gonna be people who are gonna eventually start talking about this. And they're gonna feel like the whole spoiler free thing is gonna run its course. Or like the non-spoiler time is gonna run its course eventually for people. And my limit is usually a week or a week and a half without me saying anything, because I give people I'm generous like that to give people some cushion time to see a certain movie. But if it's going past like into the 2-week marker, then unless I'm around you, I'll keep my mouth shut. But as far as like internet is concerned, whatever, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, I'm going to say my piece. And like it's up to you to like, skip it, scroll it, ignore it, whatever. But it's just like, that's just my opinion. But beyond that, went off on a tangent there. But this movie is phenomenal. Everybody is phenomenal. It's fun. It's great writing. Kudos to John Watts and every actor involved in this. It's great. And do yourself a favor and go see this movie. Mask up, get vaccinated if at all possible for you. You should get vaccinated regardless, and get your booster regardless, whatever. But if you really want to see this movie, check it out in theaters. It's great, but it's probably not going to be streaming for at least until like maybe by the end of January into like early February. It's probably not going to be on Blu-ray and streaming services until around that time. And nobody's not going to wait until that point to start talking about it. It's just for the few minute people who chose not to go to the theaters benefit. And lastly, Venom 2. Now, I enjoyed Venom 2. And like I said, just like with Coming to America is on the low tier of my favorites this year. But I still enjoy it for what it's worth. But I really wish they kind of like... Because you can tell that the way Andy Serkis was directing, you can tell there were certain shots that he wanted to like depict it as R rating, but at post production you can tell, like I mentioned my spoiler review of Venom 2 a few weeks ago, or at least like a little over a month ago at this point, they can tell it's like, it was like, holding things back. What we need is an uncut version of Venom 2, which will probably Venom 1 and 2 was probably make them even more better than they actually are. But I still find it fun. Woody Harrelson is fun. Naomi Harris, fun as Shriek. It's like, everybody's involved is like fun. Venom is fun. I just did not care for the whole coming out, pseudo homosexual thing going on where they try to put on Venom. Like, I don't think I care for that. It's like, I get maybe most it was just like a joke, but it's like it didn't land with me if it was a joke. If it wasn't a joke, I don't think it was necessary to try to apply that label onto Venom. And I know it's a joke. They kind of like a, kind of marriage kind of situation between Venom and Eddie, but it's like y'all leaning extra hard into this whole theme of relationships. Or it could just been just like two buddies, two like kind of buddy cop kind of symbiosis relationship. You don't really need to add the homosexual element onto it personally. Not that like I mind it too hard, but it's just kind of like it wasn't really necessary. It was like I feel like it's like they placated into like a joke almost. But beyond that, it's fun. I really wish it was R rating because we're dealing with Carnage, a serial killer villain from the Marvel Universe, one of the most prolific, iconic, infamous villains in the Marvel Universe. And you're kind of, if Joker gets an R rating, you should, if Deadpool taught us anything and Logan taught us anything, certain characters that warrant an R rating deserve their R rating for a reason. Because you really want those Chinese market money, and it's like, you know what? It's a freaking Venom and Carnage movie. Allow them to go full tilt with the violence. It's just my opinion. But those are my, movies that I enjoyed this year of 2021. Honestly, yeah, that was it. Honestly, I, expect next year to be even, just like with the video games, I expect next year to be like full of just great movie content. It's mostly gonna be like a lot of DC related stuff more so than Marvel or any Disney related thing. I'm pretty sure there's a few Disney related things next year. Doctor Strange, the number one. Doctor Strange and Thor is the primary two I can think of. I'm pretty sure there's a couple of more, but mostly, DC's gonna be taking up the bulk of the stuff with like Black Adam, the Batman. At least I know it's another thing. I just can't remember off the top of my head, but I know it's like supposed to be some kind of crypto superdog TV show kind of thing next year. Maybe I don't know if it's like a TV show or an animated movie, but yeah, I mean DC gonna have their moment in the sun next year with a fair bit of stuff. Aquaman 2 is not coming out till 2023, so I think that's probably like the first movie in 2023 for the DC. And I think Shazam 2 is coming out next year. Shazam 2. Yeah, Shazam 2 is coming out April next year. Oh, and then there's also like Sonic the Hedgehog 2 next year too. So I think Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is coming out because Shazam 2 is coming out around my birthday. That's gonna be amazing. But Sonic. Yeah, that's coming out. So like a week after Shazam. So there's two movies I'll be watching back to back and reviewing next year as far as Sonic 2 and Shazam 2. So I'm looking forward to those. That's April's gonna be like the bomb. I cannot wait. But yeah. Let me know in the comments below what was your favorite movies of 2021. I will see you guys in a little bit for one last video. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, see ya.